another episode of Beyond the Black Rims. I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode 6.
Or Episode 52 if you're counting.
And we've been going for a long time, and we thank you guys for still hanging out with us. I hope we have some more people who have come over from YouTube, just so that you guys remember. Yes, we do put it on YouTube every week, but we would like it better if you came out to join us at 9 o'clock Central Time every Thursday.
You know, with the cool kids.
With the cool kids, where you can also hang out with us for an additional half hour after the show ends, and we just shoot the breeze, and it's going to be a good time, and I hope you guys in here are looking forward to that just as much as we are.
Because we do.
Because we do like talking to you guys. I think it's fun.
I think it's fun.
Good. What else do you think is fun? You done anything fun lately?
What fun stuff did I do? I did do something fun. What did I do?
You know, we actually went to the Dollar Theater.
Actually, yeah. The fun things that we've been doing this past week, as you guys probably know, we've been kind of busy with various projects, you know, on both our plates and then on individual plates. Well, finally this week we had a chance to catch up on some movies. Two in particular. We caught up on RoboCop, finally, the remake, and we finally caught up on The Hunger Games: Catching Fire this week. I admit that it was probably for the best that we waited till the dollar movies to go watch RoboCop.
Yeah, here's what I'm gonna say about RoboCop and kind of leave it at that. It could have been good. It really could have. There was a slight bit of potential if they decided, you know what, let's just kind of do our own thing with it. Then maybe it could have been its own thing without trying to be the original RoboCop and failing at doing it. But then it tried to be two movies in one movie, and it just kind of hurt. It just hurt my feelings.
I think part of the problem with it, because I agree with you on that, but I think to take it a step further, a lot of what happened in that movie was this idea of we were trying to take our own direction, you know, the creators of this particular movie, you know, Jose Padilla directing, you know, we wanted to take it in a different direction and kind of tackle some topics that weren't necessarily thought of back in the 80s with the Paul Verhoeven version. But in the process of trying to do that, we remembered, oh snap, we came across X thing that was in the original. Well, we got to stick it in now. And
yeah,
it just...
so it kind of equated to quotes that kind of meant something in the original movie, but, well, they just said it because it's a thing that got said in the original movie, and there wasn't really a point other than, they'll remember this. It wasn't the same.
Yeah.
Wasn't the same. You know, it's kind of funny, we typically don't point out chat activity, but I wanted to say, you were talking about, should I shave or not before the show?
Because usually I'm clean shaven for every show, but
and of course,
admittedly...
And the one time you were like, nah, I'll skip it this time, and then
somebody See, I told you, people are paying attention now. See?
All right.
People are watching this chin. Literally, like right now, they're in a chat watching this chin.
I guess. I mean, if it were me, I would, since it's technically not something too terribly visual, just a little bit visual, I would just turn the volume up and get up and walk around and make myself a hot pocket. Like, that's what I would do.
You do that as it is with anything we're watching.
I have too many things to do, like
fair
eat.
Enough.
Like, I can't just sit down and eat. I have to,
Alright, fair enough. But that was for RoboCop. And like we also said, we watched Catching Fire really just the night before last. And that one I actually do kind of wish we saw when it came out.
Yeah, I do too, but you were the slowpoke.
I admit, we've made a point of, for this series, we're reading the book and then going to see the movie. You know, we want to be able to make those comparisons. I know some of you saw our little vlog that we did with my brother back when the first Hunger Games movie came out. This time, not so much. We'll just give a few quick thoughts right here. I think it's definitely noticeable that Catching Fire has the same problem that Hunger Games had, in that the pacing at the very beginning of the movie is kind of off and doesn't really get you into the story too much. I think it very much presumes that you've already seen the first movie, and I think with any sequel, you kind of want to leave it a little bit open to where some newcomer doesn't have a hard time getting into the story.
Oh, I don't know. Considering it's a trilogy, like, I'm pretty sure that's the point. Like, you can't just jump in the middle.
Yeah, but I say that to say, aside from that and a couple of omissions, a couple of very weird omissions, and if you guys want, you can ask us about it in the chat afterward, I think it was fairly faithful, just like the first one was, to the book.
Yeah, it's still one of the more faithful adaptations. I do just think that some of the things they chose to keep for a movie setting and some of the things they chose to leave out, I didn't necessarily understand. Like, I would have switched a couple of things in and out. But otherwise, a good adaptation without taking too many movie liberties.
Right.
Just enough to make it work in a movie format. It still was a good movie.
And kind of with the first movie, now going into this one, the things that they did omit in terms of the more sci-fi sort of elements, I get why they omitted them, and it makes for a movie that flows a little better. So I don't fault them for that. But now that means we have a Mockingjay now, the last book in the series, to read. And if I'm not mistaken, they are splitting that like every other book series that gets converted into 2 movies, Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2.
Yeah, they've been doing that with movies a lot lately.
Well, because they're trying to
movie adaptations.
They're
cash in for as long as humanly possible.
You get as close as you can to giraffe money as possible.
Yeah.
Everybody wants that giraffe money.
Well, to be fair, like, because it's a book, usually you would have to omit a ton of stuff, but if you drag it out, you don't have to omit nearly as much.
I'll say this much, that way we can move on. I would say that movie could have stood to have been at least 10 minutes longer. I don't think that's much.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things. Really for padding at the... Well, not so much padding. Just to make the front flow a little better and feel more like a full movie. Mm-hmm. Other than that, you know, I didn't really have too many problems with it.
So that's stuff that's been going on with us. We should talk about exactly what we're actually talking about tonight. One of the first things we're going to be talking about is how, interestingly enough, probably arguably our North America's biggest pop star currently, Lady Gaga, is having Japan's biggest not quite real pop idol, Hatsune Miku, be her opening act for her art pop tour that she's doing in the near future. So that's one interesting thing.
The next story we're going to cover after that is today astronomers announced that, surprisingly enough, after years and years of searching, we may have finally found the closest Earth-like planet in all of space exploration, and we'll talk a little bit about how that fits in with our expectations of how space exploration works.
And then finally, interestingly enough, just yesterday, I believe, it was announced that Sony sold all of its shares of its stock in Square Enix, and we'll talk about what that could possibly mean as a business relationship, what that means financially for both companies. So before we get into those, I do believe we have a follow-up on previous stories that we've talked about before in the past. What do we got tonight?
Well, you know us, with most of the shows we've done, we've got our pulse really on a few very big things. We've got our pulse on Episode 7 for Star Wars.
Uh-huh.
And we've got our pulse on Batman vs. Superman.
Because we can't figure out what this thing wants to be. We don't know anything about it, even though it's in the news constantly. Like, I honestly don't know how it is it can generate so much news while saying so very little. And I think that's what this story is kind of saying,
that's
too.
kind of what it goes into. Superhero Hype put up a small tidbit of an interview that was done with the director Zack Snyder on why they included Batman. Now, for a lot of people, this is a very important topic. Of all the characters in the DC universe that they could have chose to put in this movie, why the Caped Crusader? Well, this will give you a little bit of insight, and I'll read through it very quickly. Being asked about this is Zack Snyder talking here. After Man of Steel finished and we started talking about what would be in the next movie, I started subtly mentioning that it would be cool if he faced Batman. In the first meeting, the production meeting, it was like, maybe Batman? Maybe at the end of the second movie, some kryptonite gets delivered to Bruce Wayne's house or something, like in a cryptic way. That's the first time we see him. But then, once you say it out loud, right, you're in a story meeting talking about it, like, who should Superman fight if he fought this giant alien threat like Zod, who was basically his equal physically from his planet, fighting on our turf, you know, who to fight next. The problem is, once you say it out loud, then it's kind of hard to go back, right? Once you say, what about Batman, then you realize, okay, that's a cool idea, what else? I mean, what do you say after that?
Like, that sounds so lackadaisical. Like, somebody thought Batman and then decided, let's just not think about anything else. There's no other options, right? Also, has that been done before? Like, did anybody do that research? Has Batman fought Superman before? I don't know, but that would be a cool idea, right?
It's
and
like
then
if
somebody
you
in the
had-
back corner is going, yes, they fought before. Go with that storyline. I can't hear you. Counting money. Counting money
it's
off
like
Batman.
it sounds like if you had told me, like, oh, there was very hard discussion with David Goyer, like, all right, look, I've got a brilliant idea for how we're going to introduce this whole new universe. We pit him against the other biggest character that we have right now, and then we filter in all these other characters slowly and surely, and I have a plan for this. If you had told me that's what it was, I would feel better. But here, where it's sounding like, so what do we do for the next movie?
This sounds
what about Batman?
This sounds
Yeah,
like
Batman. Let's do that. Yeah, we could do that maybe. Yeah.
It sounds like every single one of those nerd conversations. Like, all right, who would win in a fight?
No, see, I
The
have to.
Predator or Batman?
Batman won because that happened.
Okay.
Twice.
Who would win in a fight? The Smurfs or Beetlejuice? Like
That's not even a thing.
Like, we've got a friend who would do that.
No,
You
we
know
do have
this.
a friend that would
You
do that.
know this.
I have this problem with my manager at work. He is constantly breathing down my neck because I won't relent to him that Superman would lose to the Hulk. Like, this is a thing that I have to put up with on an almost daily basis. But that's the kind of talk that they're having. This official
boardroom
meeting about Batman's inclusion. Like, that's what that is. And then they go on, just a little bit to cover this up, they talk about the costumes that they've already done testing with Batman's, Wonder Woman's, and Superman's outfits. And that Zack Snyder basically has a giant blown-up picture that he took on his phone of the 3 costumes there in his office. It's like, oh man, I wish I could tell you guys, but I can't yet because, you know, it's so far away, you know, marketing and all that stuff. And it's like, dude, you got the costumes, where's the story?
Yeah, I was about to say, like, isn't that kind of backwards? Are you telling me that you made costumes, but you didn't write a script yet? Let me just say that there have been other projects that have gone down the drain because you blew all the money on the visuals before you knew what those visuals were gonna do.
Yeah.
So...
Lucas! I'm sorry, I got allergies right now, hay fever, pollen count.
I'm just saying, learn from other people's mistakes, please. Like, this is a very
I'm gonna say this
mistake.
right now, and I'm gonna try and drop it. I'm gonna say this right now. We're talking about Batman versus Superman. Like, that's supposedly the name of the movie, right?
Well,
We've got
the running working title.
the running
yes.
working title right now. People keep talking about, what does Batman's suit look like? How is Ben Affleck gonna play Batman? Is Gal Gadot gonna bulk up? Or how is Jesse Eisenberg going to play Lex Luthor? All of these questions. You know what nobody's asked? What's Superman gonna do in this movie? Has anybody talked to Henry Cavill? No. Nobody has talked to Henry Cavill in months because he doesn't matter. He's Superman in the Batman vs. Superman movie, and nobody's thought to talk to him in months.
Cause nobody actually wants to see him be Superman.
Well, not
anymore.
the way... I don't want to see him the way they portrayed him in the first movie.
Yeah.
Like, I would like to hear them say, oh yeah, Superman's gonna have to raise up and have to deal with these conflicting interests in Luthor Corp and Wayne Corp. But nobody said anything about Superman's arc, about his costume. Nobody said crap about Superman in the Batman vs. Superman movie. That's got to tell you something.
Yeah,
I just want to point that out to people, that we're making all this fuss about Batman and Wonder Woman, but isn't it kind of weird that we're being drawn away from Superman?
Because
I just want to point that out.
It's billed as Man of Steel's second movie.
Right.
So this is Superman's movie featuring Batman and Wonder Woman, right? Like, that's what we've been told, even though I still argue that they're going to try and spin it around to be Justice League sometime down the line. Yeah, still kind of weird.
And I appreciate that the people in the chat right now are coming up with their own versus fights, and you guys can run them by us at the end, and we'll see who wins.
I like this one here, Patchy the Pirate from SpongeBob versus Johnny from The Room. I like that one, actually.
I just don't. I don't.
That's because you also refuse to see the room, and so you really don't.
Yeah,
because
I
you really
really
don't know. You don't even know.
I kind of don't want to know.
We need to get you to one of those public theater viewings where
I know they have them.
You're
The Draft House
specifically
has it
supposed to
sometimes.
mock the movie with a whole bunch of people and then throw spoons at the screen.
I can live with that.
Okay, then
If it's like the shoot-alongs that they have at the Draft House, that's
yeah,
fine.
it's kind of like that. It's
Okay,
kinda like
yeah,
that. Only
yeah,
a
we can do
lot
that.
more noisy. A lot more noisy.
Okay, that's fine.
So
So let's get on to our first story then.
what was it? Oh yeah. So there's this thing going on. Yeah, Miku. Yeah. Oh, I was gonna set that up so that it auto played. Oh well. Well, I'll keep talking while I'll make it autoplay. So for some reason, Lady Gaga has decided to do all kinds of weird things with this art pop tour. Right? She
Right.
got this K-pop group. What did I say they were called? Color
Pop.
Color Pop. Oh well, Crayon Pop.
Crayon Pop.
Crayon Pop.
Sorry.
Maybe she just got them because of their name. Like,
That's a possibility.
That might be. Because I went looking for... Because I had never heard of Crayon Pop before. Granted, I'm not incredibly familiar with a lot of K-pop. Some, but not a whole heck of a lot. And I'd never heard of them before. And going back and watching them, you would think Lady Gaga would choose to take along a group that was especially colorful or weird.
Like, I was thinking, like, of all things that she could have brought on tour with her, of all groups or acts, I almost thought it was a shoo-in that she would get Baby Metal. Even though they're not alike, but they're weird enough to go along with her, I think.
Yeah, so
let's get this out of the way up front. Lady Gaga is huge.
Oh,
she
yeah.
can get whoever she wanted, pay whatever she wanted, because she's got that kind of power, that
Last
pull.
time I was in Japan, her promotional photos for her latest album at the time were just sprawled everywhere. She is worldwide, and especially in Asia, too. Just phenomenal pop hit.
Yes.
Phenomenal. As much as I don't necessarily like her music, I have to at least give her that much. She has generated this machine that is pop culture and image and I guess you could say art. That's somebody's
for lack
art.
of a better term, like it's my personal feelings on it. I'm not saying she's put out the greatest material. I will say, though, I consider her probably one of the most highly intelligent, if not well-designed acts of our age for what she's doing with her acts, with her music, and just the reach that she has. So as such, yeah, she could get whoever she wanted to open for her. And one example is this Crayon Pop group. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about...
because she did get whoever she wanted, and it's Hatsune Miku for some reason. And, you know, I was really trying to get this to just autoplay, and clearly it's not working, but maybe I can, like, drag this bar... Oh, I can? Can I just hit play?
Yeah! Oh, you got it working.
The footage that I'm playing right now is from her very first quote-unquote live concert that she ever did on, what was called Sankyu Thank You Day. It was, January, March, April, May, June, July, August, September the 9th, a couple years back. No, September the 3rd, a couple years back, and then they read their numbers backward. So, 3, San, 9, Q, San Q, Thank You. She performed live on Thank You Day, and I guess it was a thank you concert for supporting Hatsune Miku. So,
well, of course they would want to have, you know, the company that created her would want to have a thank you concert for her, because you think about it, Hatsune Miku, even before she came out, the number of pre-orders for the software
for the Vocaloid software, yeah,
they couldn't keep up with the demand.
She was not. I don't believe she was the first Vocaloid. However, she clearly became the most popular Vocaloid.
No, she was in on Vocaloid 2.
Yeah. So then further spawned all these other characters that came from it, including getting musicians such as Gact and I believe Ayumi Hamasaki
yes.
As Vocaloid characters as well. and of course here in this concert and in one that they did over in Los Angeles as well, I think those have been the only two live Hatsune Miku concerts where you can see it's a live band performing with this holographic Miku projected onto what looks like a very thin film screen, which really is the what rap artist did that before? Tupac did that before, because he's not exactly around to do it himself.
Well, not just that. X Japan also had a hologram of their late guitarist Hide perform with them on their reunion tour a couple of years back. I had a brother who did everything he could to get out to Japan and watch that concert live. So, projection isn't a new thing. What's interesting to think about is that this is a thing, that she will be performing as the opening act, exposing Miku to thousands of people who might not know who Miku Hatsune is.
Because, it's been a couple of years since America has really seen much of Miku. Because she did have that one concert in Los Angeles, and she was in a bunch of Toyota commercials over here, but she wasn't really doing Hatsune Miku things, and by that I mean she wasn't singing. So it was like, oh, well, there's this very strange auto-tune speaking little girl CG in a Toyota commercial. Well, she's Japanese and Toyota's Japanese. Like, that's about as much sense as those commercials made.
Well, the way I think about it is kind of in that old Simpsons quote, what a time to be alive. Because you think about it, Miku Hatsune came out in 2007. Here we are 7 years later, and now she's opening for one of the biggest acts of our age.
Yeah.
Like, that's a quick turnover in my book. And when she first came out, how did you find out about Miku Hatsune? It was through friends, it was through people at your college campus, watching a video or playing the PS2 rhythm game and being like, oh, what's that?
Well, the PSP rhythm game moved on to the PS3, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where, actually, there's some really good composers who have composed in Vocaloid. Like, I don't necessarily like every single song that Miku has ever been set to, but that's the thing. You use a Vocaloid when you don't have an actual human voice to perform for you, and then it just so happens that, musically speaking, it took off. You just get the right composer, and the right composer can create a fantastic song, and then you stick Miku in as your vocalist, and then it creates its own very unique sound. And for that, I appreciate it. And also for that, and for as technologically interesting as this concert and performance is set up, then you know what? I totally get why Lady Gaga wants to use her as an opening act. I do. I actually really do. It actually makes more sense than the girl group Crayon Pop. I really don't they just seemed very normal.
Well, I think
very normal.
I'm interested to see what happens after the tour is over, when all these thousands of people who either do or don't know, because let's try and look at it from those two angles real quick. One, how many more people who might not have gone to a Lady Gaga concert will go to see Miku Hatsune?
Oh, I was just reading in the forums on Anime News Network, and they were like, what? Miku's opening for Lady Gaga? Well, I don't much care for Lady Gaga, but I'll throw down $100 to go see Hatsune Miku.
Exactly.
People
the fans
said
the fans are going to show up. And I'll be interested to see how fans of Lady Gaga who might show up to the show in their weird outfits are like, why are they all wearing the same outfit? With the turquoise pigtails. I don't get it.
Like, there's gonna be really strangely dressed people, and you might think, like, oh yeah, weird people come dressed weird to Lady Gaga stuff all the time, but people don't realize, oh, it's it's cosplay.
Right. And then on the flip side of that, I have to think about all of these people who don't know Miku Hatsune, and they're going to be there, sitting there, expecting Lady Gaga to come out with, all these songs, I live for the applause, or, whatever song she's playing that night. And then they see this 16-year-old looking turquoise pigtailed not real girl. And I think, like, for some people, and I think some people in the chat would agree, she's got a couple of earworm songs that just kind of get in there. And you can listen to a couple of them on the PS3 rhythm game. Like, I think my favorite is World's End Dance Hall. You know, it's kind of that dance-off with the other pink-haired girl. I didn't bother to learn anyone else's name, really. But I like the song. You know, they're both on buses, kind of dancing off against each other, matching choreography-wise.
I'm a little more familiar with the PSP versions than I am the PS3
Well, you gotta say you at least like one of her songs.
Yeah, the one that she performs here in this video, actually, World Is Mine, is one of my favorites. What do you have? You have Love Is War up.
No. Love Is War or Wars, whichever way it is. Basically what I call Linkin Park meets Hatsune Miku. Because if they had a Chester Bedingfield Vocaloid, they should put that on top of that song, and you wouldn't... it sounds like classic Linkin Park to me. At least the way the background sounds. So that's probably my favorite, more so than World End Dance Hall. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I have no idea what her set list is going to be that night. It could be a brand new song, or several brand new songs. Maybe, who knows, this could be promotion for another release of Vocaloid, or another game for her. The possibilities for Miku herself could be endless after this.
Yeah. And of course, she is capable of being made to sing English, and I think they've updated her English pronunciation a couple of times. It's still not perfect, but if you introduce her to an English-speaking audience that much more broadly, then I would imagine the demand for creating more English language music would just explode.
Like, do you think she would ever get a solo tour over here?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, because I'm thinking back, you know, you remember Final Fantasy The Spirits Within, how they created this digital character, Aki Ross, who was voiced by Ming-Na Wen, and they were purporting that, oh, she could eventually star in her own movies and be a lead alongside other actresses. Yeah, she was supposed to be
her own actress, her own digital actress.
But of course that never took off.
Well, yeah, that's because Square made a lot of bad decisions in those days. And today as well.
Well,
we'll talk about that later.
But as far as this goes, Miku is that. She could make whatever album. She can sing whatever note. She can do whatever style. Like, this is the embodiment of that idea in Miku Hatsune. And I am very intrigued, I will say, to see how much of an influence she'll have on Lady Gaga's audience and vice versa.
Yeah, because, again, I'm actually not a huge rabid Miku fan, but, you know, there's songs that have been composed for her that I like. And so in that regard, I am, in fact, interested in following whatever happens to Miku, because it's kind of fascinating to see how a culture can get behind a not real, not living artist.
Like, will there be a little bit of culture shock?
Possibly, yeah. I don't know.
I see potential for that happening.
Considering I doubt that she's going to do fully English language songs, and if she did, it would sound very English. And so there's going to be those people who are like, I don't understand the babble moon speak coming out of her mouth, so, you know.
And then you'll have the cosplayer next to that person, you shut up, this is brilliant! With the glow sticks.
This is Psycho Death! Like, they're just gonna be shouting what little Japanese they know, and they're gonna think that they're brilliant and amazing and witty. And...
But that's a whole nother argument there.
So we'll keep you posted. That tour's happening next month, I believe.
Yeah, this summer, basically.
This summer, yeah, over the course of May and June.
Yeah, May 6th through June 3rd, so... You can actually go on Anime News Network and look up the story, and they'll have the list of dates there. So if you guys are interested in going out to see Miku opening for Lady Gaga, feel free to do so. And hey, come tell us about it, because we can't afford it.
Yep, they're not coming anywhere near us.
No dates in Texas.
But a few in Canada, a few Canadians are out there watching, though. So
yeah,
good luck.
So moving on to our next story. Space. The not-so-final frontier.
How do you know?
Well,
How do you know? I mean, space is pretty big. That frontier is so big.
how big is it?
Well, to be fair, we've probably explored less of our own ocean than we have space, so I really don't know.
Yeah, but getting down to the nitty gritty here, it's as the story on IO9 says, astronomers have found the first Earth-sized habitable zone planet. They designated it Kepler 186f. This planet, as they're purporting here, is in the what they call the Goldilocks zone, which is just the right distance away from the sun in that particular solar system to where they could possibly have liquid water, which is necessary for life, like we have on our planet. It's also within reasonable size difference to ours. It's only about 1.5 in terms of size ratio to us.
1.5%?
Yes. 1.5%.
Okay, that's negligibly larger than Earth.
Now, it's interesting to note that this planet, they've had this Kepler project out there for a while for this very reason, to go out and find habitable planets, or as Star Trek fans would call them, Class M planets.
That's how I'm gonna refer to it, because that just makes it easier for me.
Yes, I understand that.
To comprehend, because I only science so far. I comprehend ideas and certain functions, the way things should function, so I hear, but I don't math, and so that hinders me.
Well, see, the good thing about it is, thanks to as much sci-fi as available out there, things like Star Trek make it easier to relate these ideas to, laymen's and nerds and everybody else. So as such, when we talk about the Goldilocks section, you think about our planet, where we're positioned in our solar system. If we were a few degrees closer to the sun, the water on our planet would vaporize.
Yeah.
If it was further away, it would freeze. It's just that sweet spot for life to exist. And, in any number of sci-fi stories, in, classic Star Trek, Mass Effect even, for more recent viewing and playing, space exploration is something we've aspired to for decades.
Okay, well...
And... Go ahead.
Oh, no, if you're going on a thought, finish the thought.
Well, no, to me, it's one of those things, we complain about the hoverboard, we complain about not having this, that, and the other Jetson technology, but when we talk about exploring our universe, this is something that we're at least hearing the beginnings of in our lifetime, that we're finding possible other habitable planets.
I'm trying to remember the exact quote and who I heard it from, and maybe somebody in the chat will correct me and will lead me to the quote I'm thinking of. And it's something about when you lost the dreams of space exploration, you lost the drive to build new technology.
That was I'm pretty sure that's Neil deGrasse Tyson who said that.
Yeah. And I'm getting the quote wrong, but it's somewhere around that phrasing. And I'm actually kind of concerned about that because, we lost dreams for space exploration. Like, we just decided, it's not important right now. But I think it actually is quite important to understand not just everything around us better, but understanding everything around us helps us understand us better. Now, and specifically, I bring that up to go back to the thing that I was going to try and ask you about before, and that's, how far away is this planet?
Well, it's not in our backyard, to put it simply. This planet is... where did they say here on the... I just had it a second ago. It's several light years away. Mm-hmm. And the thing about it that most science fiction stories have in common is that we have the ability to get from planet to planet, system to system, because we've developed in these stories the ability to travel faster than the speed of light, which currently we cannot.
Yeah.
So finding this planet is great, but it's kind of a moot point because we're not going to be able to get there anytime soon.
Yeah, because as it is, our closest star outside of our solar system is 4 light years away. and we can't travel at the speed of light. So, we're not getting to it anytime in our lifetime unless somebody figures out light speed, like, right now.
Because as it stands currently, because it's not really going anywhere, this planet, Kepler 186f, is 500 light years away.
So, see, even if we could figure out how to go as fast as light, we would still die before we got there. So, now here's another question. Is that planet even really still there? If it's 500 light years away, like, it could have exploded. I'm just saying.
Well, it's funny that you mention that, because this project is looking for 3 major things to classify it as what we're going to go ahead and say is a Class M planet. One, it needs to have a similar build to our planet, meaning it's very solid, very rocky, not a gas giant, not anything of that nature, something that's within our size. Also, it needs to be able to have the capability for liquid water, which we need for life to exist. And the third thing is, it needs to have, related to that, it needs to be a certain distance away from its sun. Well, as such, the sun that this is orbiting happens to be an M dwarf, meaning it's already
starting to collapse
on the latter years of its star life. But as such, the radiation it would give off if we were on that planet looking up, scientists are proposing that the light would filter a little more to the red side. It'd be a red-ish looking sun, so you make fun of it, possibly blowing up. Basically, we're dealing with Krypton here.
Well, I'm just
slightly
saying,
larger with a red sun.
Why are we getting excited about this? It's clearly too far away, realistically speaking, and by the time we get there, its sun could have already completely dwarfed and blanked out.
I don't know about that. That takes thousands and millions of years for that to happen.
Yeah, but it could already be at that point. I'm just saying.
But we found it.
Yeah, but now we gotta go find another one.
Well, that's the thing. This Kepler project will continue, and they're saying within the next 10 years we will probably find as many more as you can imagine planets that are Earth-sized and fit these criteria for habitable planets. And yeah, that will, bringing up that quote from earlier, that I hope will spur people on to want to build the rocket ships, the hyperdrives, the whatever, the TARDISes of the future that will get us to these planets and make us want to dream bigger and reach for reach for the stars.
I'm kind of more concerned that unless there's some big major problem, we'll never do it. And by the time we do it, it'll be too late. It's gonna be, as silly as it sounds, it's gonna be like WALL-E, where it's like, oh, crap, we screwed up the planet, maybe we better think about leaving. And it's like the very last possible moment to the point where Earth really isn't inhabitable anymore, and then it's like, well, we sure didn't get on building this fast enough, because the only thing spurring on our space program was, what's Russia gonna do? We can't let Russia do it first. Like, we have to get pissed off at somebody before we're motivated to do anything. We don't care about terrorism until a terrorist shows up at our front door. We don't care about anything until America is threatened. Nothing happens unless America is pissed off. So basically what I'm saying is, I don't know, somebody needs to do something really stupid and elaborate.
North Korea has to claim that they created the hyperdrive.
Basically, yeah. And then we'll be like, well, we can't let them have that. Either we have to make it ourselves or we have to blow up North Korea and take it from them. And then it's not going to be there, and it's just going to be like George W. Bush all over again.
Well, what would be funnier to me, just to go off on a tangent, is that we send spies into North Korea to look at their hyperdrive, and it's just a Sega Mega Drive with like a watch attached to it. Like a stopwatch, duct tape on there, and a couple of glow sticks sticking out just so.
I'm really...
That's funny to me.
All I'm saying is, as much as I wish that the world actually cared about things bigger than their own small, tiny personal lives, I don't think they will unless somebody is knocking on their front door and making them feel inferior.
All right, then let's put it that way. Enough people are aware of it. A lot of people aren't aware of it. The thing I'm about to bring up. You know it. I know it. People, like they say in Men in Black, people are dumb, stupid, panicky animals, and you know it. We react out of fear a lot. Mm-hmm. So all we have to tell anybody is basically we pull kind of like people are saying a watchman or even a contact. Say that we found a signal out in deep space. It's the Reapers. They're coming for us. We say the Reapers are real, and they're coming after Earth, and we need the Alliance. We need to find a way to defeat the Reapers. That will get us out into space.
Well, you have to make sure that people think that it actually sounds cool and like an actual threat, and not like we're
You don't think the Reapers are an actual threat?
No, just listen to what you're saying. You're basically telling everyone, aliens are coming! Woo! Nobody's gonna listen to you, and they're just...
Watchmen.
And that is what? A piece of fiction, that's right. And so...
A legitimate graphic novel.
I like the graphic novel, but, you know...
But the logic works. It makes sense. We just tell people that...
So you're saying we need to fake an alien and then say, it's attacking us.
Yeah, I'm saying pull an Ozymandias, yeah.
Okay.
If that's what it takes for me to have my own Millennium Falcon, then so be it. If that's what it takes for you to have the USS Enterprise, then so be it.
Okay. Whatever you say.
I say make it so.
I'm not going to be the one to start global space terrorism, but if you want to jump to that point, then go right ahead. You start your internet army of people who want to get to space so bad that they would fake an alien and then say we need to join forces to fight it. You guys have at it.
We can do it, guys. Come on.
Yeah,
Band together.
Go ahead.
Write your congressman. Tell them we have to defeat the Reapers.
Star Trek and Mass Effect are not the same thing.
Well, either way, we need some sort of a Starfleet command or, you know, put Shepard on the Enterprise. That's fine.
I'm done with this topic.
All right, fine. Go on. Move on to the third topic.
Fine.
See if I talk about it, which I will.
Fine. I'll probably be talking about it more, though. So... Okay. We learned yesterday that, as crazy as this sounds, and maybe it doesn't actually sound that crazy. I don't think
you think it sounds crazy in the slightest.
Actually, no, probably not. We've learned that Sony has sold all of their shares in Square Enix. So
all of it.
All of their shares, and that was... How much money there? Because I'm trying to bring up the article, and for some reason, I'm having a difficult time doing it.
Oh,
I'm just letting you know.
Over $150 million.
Dollars. That is dollars. There's a yen mark in there somewhere, but that doesn't really matter.
16 billion yen, more or less evening out to a little over 156 million.
So, and they're selling it off to, there's a particular company that's named in here. Square Enix Holdings sold their shares to SMBC Nikko Securities Inc. So I don't entirely know what they do, I must confess. But we need to wait and see exactly what they do with the shares, because...
Let's put it in perspective here. Sony isn't doing that hot right now. They needed to cut some slack.
They've really kind of bottomed out in a lot of their electronics. Their cameras really haven't been doing so hot. And I guess the PS3 really didn't sell as well as they were hoping, but they're not going to drop gaming. Like, that would be really foolish. So, yeah, they have to cut ties wherever they can, and Square Enix hasn't been the first thing that they've cut ties with, but now clearly it's the most recent thing. So what does that mean? That would, I dare say, I would believe that means that they don't think that Square Enix is helping them get along. Or that it was more worth it to get nearly 50 million?
Total stock.
No, they sold 150 million, but they're expecting, like, earnings from those sales of about 50 million.
Well, you think about it, they had a little over 8% stake in the company. That's
a pretty significant.
That's a considerable amount.
Yeah,
and
that used to at one point in time that would have meant, because they used to have higher percentage of shares back several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, that meant that Square Enix dealt with exclusives, with PlayStation exclusives, with Sony console exclusives. Up until a few years ago, though, it really hadn't been so exclusive. Final Fantasy XIII was originally only supposed to come out on the PlayStation 3. And then it was announced in North America that it would also come out on the Xbox 360. And Japanese fanboys were pissed.
Well,
so
admittedly,
pissed.
you got it on the 360.
Yeah, I got it on the 3 because it was given to me. Because I didn't want to buy it. But
well, because you think about it, when they first started out, their shares of the company, they were at 19% shares, dropping down to 8.25 shares now when they sold it. That means they got rid of 11. No, not 11. Wait, why can't I math?
No, you sure can't math.
Oh, I brain farted so hard right there. That means they got rid of 11. Because 19 down to around 11%, they've gotten rid of over the last 13 years. That means they've consistently been shaving, like, okay, we don't need as much on this as we can because we're kind of suffering losses.
Which is kind of why Square Enix has had to not stay exclusive to Sony. Now, this actually doesn't make me think that Square Enix would stop producing games on Sony consoles, because really Square Enix is a Japanese company and they care more about their own people than they do about international sales. It's been intensely clear that especially the modern Square Enix cares very little, and I'm talking like core Square Enix. I'm not talking about IDOS, really mostly IDOS, because yeah, that's a British company that they picked up a couple years back, but core Square Enix, the house that actually makes their own games, really mostly cares about their own Japanese audience, and Japan prefers Sony and PlayStation to Microsoft and Xbox by far and beyond. Like, there's very little care.
Because let's not forget for a second, they're not making money just off Final Fantasy in name alone. They've still got Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
And Dragon Quest is a moneymaker.
Dragon Quest, actually, as popular as Final Fantasy is here, Dragon Quest is a far bigger pull in Japan than Final Fantasy is. On a day where Dragon Quest gets released, people get fired if they don't come into work on a day that
I'll put
Dragon
that
Quest
in perspective for you guys. The midnight release for games over here, people, ask, hey, can you cover for me? Can you cover for me? I gotta go over to GameStop real quick. I gotta pick up this game, and usually you can get around it. Or in certain cases, you just don't show up to work. But you make up for it. It's like, hey, sorry, I didn't come in today, whatever, I'll be in tomorrow. If you try to pull that mess on Dragon Quest release date over there, your boss will let you go. That's it. No allowances on that. That's how big the numbers are for people trying to leave work that day to go pick up the new Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Absolutely phenomenally huge. Which really kind of makes me feel like... And when the merger between Square and Enix happened, it was really Enix pulling the strings and making it happen, because it was supposed to be just a clean merger originally, but then Final Fantasy The Spirits Within kind of sunk that, and so it was Enix really saving Square by that point, which is why I figure, and this part of it is just me assuming, so just take that with a grain of salt. That's why I'm assuming that, relatively speaking, Dragon Quest has gone mostly unscathed over all of these years. Dragon Quest still looks and feels like Dragon Quest after all these decades, and Final Fantasy has really been floundering and suffering, and has only, if you include Final Fantasy 15, like in the course of 25 years, like 10 years went by and they made 10 games, more than 10 years went by and they made 10 games. And another 10 years went by and they only made 5. And they weren't good. So something
isn't right.
Yeah.
Something is wrong, yeah. Something needs to be fixed. Now, somebody brought it up here in the chat, and I was actually going to bring this up too. Sony, if they're having money troubles, they could very easily give up their options in the Spider-Man movie franchise. Mm-hmm. They could very easily do that, what little part they have in that. Unfortunately, that is tied to Columbia Pictures, and they're going to hold on to those for dear life because that's one of the biggest names. If they could, they would, but they won't. Because they need... The money they would get off the top with the rights wouldn't make up for the amount of money over time that the name of Spider-Man could make up for. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I think it's kind of the same thing with Final Fantasy. Should, hopefully in your case, should Final Fantasy turn itself around, Sony will have lost more from the initial buyback of those shares than they would from the Final Fantasy name perpetuating and making more money.
Yeah, because at one point it did. Just saying Final Fantasy was like, oh my god, yes! And now Final Fantasy is in this floundering state of, oh, please don't suck, oh, please don't suck, oh, please don't suck. Unfortunately, oh my god, I just realized I'm comparing it to like Mega Man or Sonic, where I'm like, oh, please don't suck, oh, please don't suck, oh, please don't suck.
They became Capcom
in
that respect.
Or Sonic Team. That's, oh wow, that is really painful. That is a horrible realization. I need to go.
Are you gonna be all right?
What?
Are you gonna make it?
Maybe.
It's gonna be okay.
I'm just saying, okay. A lot of people are like, well, that means, Square Enix isn't suffering because of this. Well, one, I want to see what these new shareholders do with these shares, if they're going to hold on to it, if they're going to buy more shares, or if they're immediately going to turn around and sell them off. Or...
No matter how you look at it, though, Sony's losing money, and they tried to get rid of the most useless thing, and the first thing to go was Square Enix. What does that say about Square Enix?
Yeah, because...
Nothing good.
It can't... no matter how you turn it, it just doesn't sound good. Because, Square Enix can keep talking up a good game, and they can keep buying other little properties here and there, and keep trying to do mobile gaming. On top of that, there was a recent news story just a couple of days prior where Square Enix announced DRM is here to stay. Where, this digital means of making purchases and just doing things digitally, their business decisions are completely not what I would follow as far as gaming is concerned. I want hard copies of things. I want to be able to access all the information on my disc without then having to go online to pay more money to unlock things that are already burned onto my disc.
It's basically like, being held up for your lunch money.
Yeah, and Square Enix is sitting here saying DRM is essential for the foreseeable future. So long as they're concerned about things like data privacy, account sharing, and hacking. They need some form of DRM, which I understand, but a lot of their tactics have been
I look at it this way. Nobody's going to hack what they don't have. Nobody's going to hack your game if nobody bought your dang game. So, deal with that.
It's very, very frustrating, a lot of the decisions that Square Enix has made in recent years. I really believe that a lot of it is due to the loss years and years ago of Hironobu Sakaguchi, and it was because Sakaguchi made one mistake, and it was the spirits within.
And it cost them for the rest of their
business lives, yeah. And so Sakaguchi is off making really cool things, but he can only ever get so much money, because all he has is his name. So...
And Square, I don't think they even have that.
Barely. Barely. They're reputable in, look at all this stuff we got. But yeah, well, what are you doing with it? Like, really, the only thing, I think it's so funny, too, that people are like, the only thing they got going for them right now is Final Fantasy XIV, which is like the opposite of what everyone was saying about 2 years ago or so, where everyone was like, ugh, what a disaster, Final Fantasy XIV. And now people are like, oh, nothing's gonna happen to 14, right? Like, now people are panicking over what's going to happen to 14. Nothing's going to happen to it. It's already made its way to PS3 and PS4. 14 is fine. I am mildly concerned about what now happens to Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy 15. Whether or not they'll be exclusive to PS4, or if they will, at last minute, jump ship to another console.
Yeah, well,
I kind of don't think that'll happen, but now their relationship with Sony can't be the same. They probably won't break their relationship off, but it can't possibly be the same.
well, we'll have to see what Square does, but on that note, we're probably going to have to wrap up.
Yeah, very much so. We do want to go ahead and mention one more time to you guys here in the chat room that, one, thank you for hanging out with us, and two, please stick around with us for the after show so we can hang out and talk to you and answer questions. And if you're on YouTube, come visit us next week. We'll be here waiting for you.
Over at twitch.tv/MarsGirl.
Twitch.tv/MarsGirl.
But in the meantime, during the week, you can always hit us up on Twitter with potential story ideas or just want to shoot the breeze. I'm at Josh Knight First.
And I'm at MarsGirlProd.
So for this episode, this has been us. This has been Beyond the Black Rims, and we will see you guys next week.
Night.